How's it going, backpackers? Dave here with Off Grid. I'm into backpacking, hiking, camping, and gear. And I got another fun one for you today. This is going to be another Speculation Nation type of video, and it's probably not one that you might be thinking of that I've done in the past. This is a brand new one that I'm thinking about doing. And in this kickoff one, I'm thinking about doing what would be my ideal tent? What would be my perfect tent if I could imagine one? So again, this is purely speculative. This is my own personal opinion. Don't get on me too hard about it. The tent that I'm going to be talking about and kind of comparing it to today, I haven't used. So be gentle on me. But again, pure speculation here. And I'm basically asking, does the perfect tent exist? And it might for one person and in one particular type of scenario, but obviously there's a lot of different things that you're going to be facing when you're out there in the field and a multitude of conditions. So take this with a grain of salt. I think for me personally, this is going to be my perfect tent for 2023. And I say 2023 because our opinions change. So what I'm saying today might not hold up again in a year from now or 2 years from now or whatever. And I'm also going to be saying that this is the perfect tent or ideal tent and scenario for me in more of a 3-season type of backpacking scenario and not in extreme conditions, you know, not in like a Hilleberg solo type of gale force wind type of scenario, but more of the situations that I face here in SoCal, which is a little bit more ideal, I guess you could say, more bright weather and not like crazy kind of weather conditions. So let's just dive right into it tonight, and I'm basing this off of Six Moon Designs and their Gatewood Cape series of tent that they have. So if you're not familiar with it, head on over to their site and check it out. I'm not sponsored by them in any way here, but I really like their design. And basically, it is a tent that also doubles as a what they're calling a cape and or a poncho. I know there's a difference between the two, but I'm probably going to use one or both of the terms tonight, so I apologize in advance. So the idea is it's a 2-wall shelter. Then they have this cape or poncho that you can use out on trail and also doubles as your rain fly for your tent. So I thought that that was a really great idea, but I would definitely change some things about it. Mostly because there are some things about the tent that are not particularly great. First of which is it's a 1P tent. Obviously, if you have a 2P and you're trying to wear it as a cape or a poncho, that'd probably look a little bit ridiculous and a little too huge. But the tent overall is just a little bit too small if you're using it as a dual wall shelter. So they have a bundle that you can buy online that has both the bug net inner as well as that poncho cape outer. So here's what I would change with it. A few different things. The first of which is to make the cape or that poncho, that outer wall, out of a DCF fabric. And I'll tell you why in a minute, but mostly it's because I want it to be a little bit lighter so that I can make it bigger. The inside definitely feels like it's a little bit more claustrophobic in there, as is right now, so I would definitely make it a little bit bigger. And the way to do that is to save weight on that poncho slash cape and make it out of a lighter material. Right now I think it's, I don't know if it's a sil nylon or something like that, and it's just a little bit heavier. Second thing I do is to make it overall in design closer to their Skyscape Tracker rather than the 6-stake version that a lot of tents are made out of. So the Skyscape Tracker, if you're unfamiliar with that one, head on over, check that out as well. It is more of a pentagon kind of shape where the head end only has 1 stake, and then you've got 2 for the door and then 2 for the feet. So that's only a total of 5 stakes total. So 1 less stake that you have to worry about there. So I like that design a little bit better. And it's also using 2 trekking poles or 2 carbon fiber pole stays. So I would go with that design as well instead of going with a single pole. It makes it feel a little bit more open and airy, sort of like my Gossamer Gear the One. There's a lot more one-person tents that are going with a 2 trekking pole system, and that definitely makes it feel a lot more open on the inside. The poncho needs to be put into more of a porch mode as well. Originally when I was thinking about this, I was like, I would really want like a tarp mode where you can kind of string it up and put it on some, you know, a couple of trees or whatever, and be able to have more of that rain protection when you're at camp. But the way that the cape and or poncho is designed and how it has to fall to the ground, it kind of eliminates that ability to go flat and kind of like just full rectangular mode. But what I think it can do is more of that Sea to Summit series of, I think their tent is called the Telos, where they call it a hangout mode. It's basically a porch mode where you just take the tent and you just kind of like pitch it up so that you still have the ability to sit underneath it and kind of chill at camp and still have protection from the rain without having to like put it into just your standard tent mode and just get in and that's it, and you can't really like hang out or chat with anybody. So that would be really cool if they had some sort of porch mode, and I think that would be pretty easy to do as well. You can add a couple of additional patches in there and stick your trekking poles up a little bit higher and just tilt it up and still be able to run the guy lines into the ground, just make them a little bit longer. The next thing I do is get rid of those ridiculous buckles that they have currently on their Gatewood Cape design. So the way that they did it is they put a series of buckles right around the hood where you attach everything kind of like to the inner and your single trekking pole design. I definitely get rid of those. Again, I'd put 2 different patches. They would probably run closer to your elbows because it has to kind of like go over your shoulders, right? But just go with the standard like reinforced patches that a lot of these companies are using instead of that like buckle design. So that'll end up saving just a little bit of weight going with that style as well. I'd also get rid of the flaps where they currently have the arms. So the way that they currently design the cape, they have the zipper going down the front when you're wearing it, and then they have 2 holes on the sides. And if you look at the tent on their site, you can see where those 2 flaps are. It's kind of like where your head end is when you're sleeping or when you're laying in the tent, and then also where your foot end is. I'm not sure if you can even pop those out to gain ventilation or not. I didn't really see anything where you could. So instead of doing it that way, I'd put the arm holes on the zipper sides. So try to think of it where you throw the poncho or the cape over yourself, and then where the door normally is with the zipper, that would be one arm. And then I do another zipper off of the other side, basically do a dual wall entry, sort of like the Skyscape Tracker as well. But that's where I'd put the arms out. And then you have the dual zipper design, so you can close it or open it up depending on how you want it ventilated. So that's what I would do for the just getting your arms in and out of that poncho / cape. The next thing I'd do is I'd get rid of that front zipper pocket, save some of that weight that they currently have on their cape. And again, that all kind of goes into the weight savings there. The next thing I'd do is I'd have clips on their Serenity Bug Inner. That's what they call their inner net. And then I would have those clips so that you can clip that to the outer wall, basically the poncho cape. And that just enables you to feel a lot less claustrophobic, right? Get that inner net away from your feet and your face so that it doesn't feel like it's draped in your face a little bit more. There are some tents that do that. I can't think of any like off the top of my head right now, but just imagine the bug net inner having a couple of clips on your head end and your foot end so that you can attach it to the outer wall. That would just go a long way and making it feel a lot more roomy in there. Next thing I do is I would have waterproof zippers and a flap with a few Velcro patches where the hood could tuck in instead of being a cinch. So right now, the way that they end up cinching it off is just at the hood end, and that's where they have all the different clips and stuff. What I would do is I would create a different section just for the head end right here, just for the hood, extend it a little bit so that you can tuck that hood back in, have a zipper go across and have a flap come across that with a couple of Velcro patches. That just eliminates that whole like having to cinch it closed and worrying if it's going to leak. And also the way that it currently stands, the hood just is kind of out there in the wind. So if you have windier conditions, that thing's probably just going all over the place. So just being able to tuck that hood away and then zippering it closed, I don't even know if that's a word, zippering, but being able to zip that closed and then having that waterproof flap on top of that would go a long way. Next thing I do is in relation to their stuff sack. So instead of, when you're thinking about a traditional stuff sack for either your sleeping pad or your tents, you're thinking about something that's more of a top load. I would actually reverse that and put it in the middle and make it more of that side load. So I'll throw up a picture right here on screen of a different type of zippered sack, and that came out really weird. a different kind of stuff sack where you're not doing a top load, and that really eliminates that struggle where it's harder to find things in it. And what I mean by that is to say, I'm also copying Sea to Summit here, but they have, and I don't know if it's their Telos or their Alto series, but all of their stuff sacks for either the tent poles, the tent, or their stakes can also double as interior pockets for additional space when you're kind of organizing on the inside of your tent. I thought that was a really great design, and I think they should definitely do something like that over at Six Moons. But again, the ability to go horizontally and feed your tent into the stuff sack that way also means when you're using that pocket on the interior of your tent, you can just more easily get into the different things that you want to put in there at night, right? For storing different stuff. And to kind of go along with that, what I would also do is I would make that stuff sack more of a clear material so that you can easily see that stuff when it doubles as that pocket on the inside of your tent. The next thing I would do is I would make an interior canopy pocket with a diffuser patch over it so that when you put your headlamp up there, it just diffuses the light a little bit easier. So I think that would be really helpful. And the last thing I would do with this tent, and this is, I was trying to get really creative with this here. The last thing I would do is I would design another, and this would kind of be like an add-on option, right? But I would design another type of pocket that is a little bit below that canopy diffuser pocket, but run from pole to pole. So sort of like a ridge line on the inside of a tent. So think of a ridge line on a hammock, but for your tent that would go from side to side. And then I would make a clear pocket in there. And that would basically be so that you can stuff your phone in there and watch movies at night. So you don't have to like think of something else to jack it up off of the ground or some sort of stand or whatever. And you can just kind of like lay back and look up and watch your movies at night. So that would be the last thing that I would do for my perfect tent. So currently the Gatewood Cape bundle, if you were to buy the whole bundle, the inner and the outer, weighs around 22 ounces before the weight of the stakes. So I believe with the weight savings of going over to a DCF fabric for that poncho / cape, you could probably stick somewhere in the same ballpark of the weight, but have an overall interior that feels a lot bigger, right? So the downside obviously is when you're switching over to DCF, it's going to raise the cost, right? So the current bundle I think is somewhere around $300 if you were to get it all in. So that would probably jack it up by at least $100, maybe a little bit more, but still going to be a little bit cheaper than that $600 Z-Packs tent that you'd go for. And the obvious benefits, right? You got the larger interior with the 2-pole design and a bug net that clips to that outer net. The fact that it's a dual wall design at such a light weight too, right around a pound and a half, is actually pretty awesome. You also have that 5 stake minimum that I was talking about instead of 6, so that saves, you know, a little bit under an ounce right there. And the protection from the rain on the trail and at camp, and that hangout mode I think would be really excellent. And then being able to separate the layers means you can dry out your outer and then keep the bug net inner dry. So it basically means that that's what they call, I think, like a fast fly setup, where you get to camp and you can just like erect the outside of the tent first, that rain fly, before having to put your bug net inner in there, so that you can just keep everything nice and dry. And then you won't need the added weight of a rain jacket. Obviously that's one of the biggest benefits as well, because it's all integrated. It's a multi-use piece of gear. Obviously a lot of people have their own decisions as to whether or not they like a multi-use piece of gear. Now obviously, you know, if you are going into thicker brush and you get some holes in your poncho, then you might be a little bit more screwed trying to use it as your tent at night, or you'd have to do a lot more repairs. But I'm all for multi-use pieces of gear, because that means that one thing can do many things, and you can hopefully end up saving weight and still being just as comfortable when you're out on trail and when you're at camp. But that's the video for today, guys. I really had a lot of fun putting this one together. Let me know your thoughts below. below on what your favorite tent would be or what it would look like, or maybe it already exists. Let me know all about it in the comments below. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking around. If you aren't subscribed to the channel and you like these types of videos, click subscribe, click that thumbs up, and click that bell notification so that you can be aware every single time I post a new video. But that's it for this week, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.